This is a great way to start this podcast, a photo of Mets. But today we got a special guest. I mean, he's been on the podcast a few times. Clayton, he's formerly known as being at so many different companies, but he's back at EHP Labs. But one thing I want to get into, and we'll touch on a few subjects, but the name, the Elevate Podcast, and obviously our time when we first started the podcast, I think it was 8-9 years ago. It was around then. It was about 8 years ago. I reckon it would have been around 2016 in my living room. And really, this all started with us two, and you're back again after a year. You've seen how this podcast has evolved. This is the most consistent we've been. But before we get into all that, I wanted to touch on what you just done recently and your return to EHP Labs, but more importantly, the NELK Boys. What was that experience like? I mean, these guys are massive. I mean,
Give us
they've
some
just
insight.
interviewed Donald Trump, Dana White. Like they've had every guest on their show. What was that experience like with the NELK Boys, and especially you being back at EHP Labs?
The NELK Boys was a lot of fun. It was really cool to see. We've talked about their content for a long time, but to be able to spend some time with them and see their kind of little clique and culture and the way that they roll was quite fun. So I went up to the Gold Coast. They were here in Australia creating some content. Went up to the Gold Coast and got a chance to meet all the boys. Took some oxy shreds up there and we're all enjoying those for the week, which was fun. But they're great. Like they're just a group of friends that love to spend time together. And it's as simple as that. Like they've just kind of started creating content around genuinely who they are. Like there's no difference on camera to off camera. The bond is the same. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of fun. I love that for people with their influence and some of the things they're achieved, there's no ego at all. Like they're extremely friendly. They're just a bunch of young guys traveling the world and doing exactly what they love to do and documenting the whole thing. So we had a party up there, which was cool. Everyone had a few drinks and had some fun. Then they came back down to Sydney and we organised some stuff for them, helped them with some restaurant bookings and hotels and stuff like that. They shot a cool video with, I mean, it's out now if you guys, I think it's out now. I haven't seen it, I probably should. Where they helped a virgin.
Right?
Yeah, a virgin. I was surprised they didn't hit you up, but they found another one. And they filmed a video.
It's begun. It's already begun.
They created a video getting him all dressed up and styled and hanging out with some girls.
If they got me at 13, that would have been.
No, but it was great. Like from a business standpoint, we live in the era of like attention and content now, and they're some of the best at it. You know, they're rubbing shoulders with literally the most powerful people in the whole world. I think like 2 weeks before they came out to Australia, they were a part of that Trump rally and that presidential campaign, which was a whole separate thing to talk about. Might need another podcast, but really cool to see the way that that whole political campaign embraced influencers and social media, which was very unique and very different and a pretty good indicator of the way that the world's running at the moment. But to answer your question, NELK Boys were a lot of fun. Great guys, super authentic, genuinely love to spend time together, are traveling around the world, living their dream. And that's what's possible today through the internet. So that was fun. Second question, back to EHP, which is a really exciting decision and time of my life. Obviously started my career there. If anyone's been following these podcasts with Mets, as an intern 11 years ago now. And so much has changed, but always had such a big amount of love for the business and for Iz, and the opportunity for me to go back as this current version of myself now after all of these lessons that I've learned, to be able to go in to a business that has grown and changed, that has incredible people, the same products that I've been drinking the whole way through that I really believe in and stand behind, was a bit of a no-brainer. And the first 5 or 6 months has passed really quickly. The company's the same in a lot of ways in terms of culture and values and the standard that's set, which is a really big part of what makes the company what it is, I believe, but different in terms of like the global landscape and how things run. So I've been loving being back, been loving working with the team, super passionate about what the future looks like for us, and excited to just keep ripping in.
You mentioned team then. What do you look for when you're conducting a team and bringing people in or letting people go?
Good question. 2 things for me bringing people in is capability and competency. So have they done what we need them to do? It's really quite simple. Like, has this person proven that exactly what we need them to do in the business? Do they have a track record of being able to do that? I think that's really important. And more so on the hiring side, it's sometimes quite difficult to know exactly what you need in your business. It's not super effective to get busy and just go and hire someone and expect them to magically know what to do. You need to create an environment where you know measurably, have they done this exact thing and can they do this exact thing for my business? And then capability, are they going to fit into our culture and are they going to love what we do? Which is super important as well. We've got a big team now, so bringing new people in, it's important that they believe in our mission, they share in our values, they bring a certain type of energy, they're passionate about what we're creating and believe in the lifestyle that we promote. And when we can find people that have those two things, then they generally stay with the business for a long time and have a really good journey with us.
With the EHP Labs, obviously, it's not just a company that sells products, but it's a huge marketing machine as well. What kind of challenges do you face in marketing? And, yesterday we done a class for your team and it was, which I love, and you could see how important that was for them to be able to train like that. And one of your employees, Chanel, said how much energy she felt through that session. What are some of the challenges? Because you had 2 new girls that started in the company a week ago. What was it like to be able to bring them into that environment?
Yesterday was great. The team had such a good time and there was such a big positive energy in the office yesterday off the back of that, especially with some new starters in the team. I feel like getting them in and doing a hard session together is a great way to bond. More effective, I think, than for our company anyway and what we're trying to build than going out drinking and getting busted up. I think getting people in and bonding through health and fitness and aligning with the change that we're trying to make in the world as a business makes sense. In terms of challenges for the business, I think a lot of the complexity is in keeping it simple. And that's not easy. Like, we know what works. It's about sticking to that, understanding what we need to say no to double down on the things that are important to us and keep them compounding and keep them moving, because the bigger that you get, the more opportunity there is to be distracted and to try new things and to veer away from what's core. And when we can focus on what's core and stick to the fundamentals, like most things, and do those really, really well, that's when we experience the biggest gains.
It's funny you say that. Eddie I just got off the phone with Eddie, and then we had, all the testimonials we've been doing recently. And like, the more testimonials you do and the more people talk about your brand, the more people share that and talk about it. And I had another client, we're out the front every Saturday and we're doing the cold baths. And I had another client come up and he goes, man, I've had 4,000, views, which isn't heaps, but for him it's a lot. And he goes, my son's mates are sharing it, their mates are sharing it. And I had about like 10 different people come to me and they go, mate, we love all the testimonials. And it's about sticking to that consistently, even though you want to veer away from it and show other things, but sticking to it's really hard.
It is super hard because you get new people and they want to add value by bringing new perspectives, and you get outside influence telling you that you need to try certain things to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. But as leaders, ultimately it's up to you to measure the things that influence where you want your business to go and make sure that your whole organization is influencing those numbers that you want to move.
As we're speaking on that, what are some things that you fall back on when you're getting different avenues of information? Is there something that you always default back to gather all this information and go, you know what, I'm going to disregard that, I'll bring this in? What do you do before making a vital decision?
Set those goals, like unemotionally, like really take the time to plan what success looks like over a period. Like, there's frameworks that we use to do that. We have amazing leaders in the business that we can then discuss those goals with and make sure that we align on what our plan is. That's success. Like, it's not success to fail at what you define as success because you get busy and say, oh, but we did all these other things instead. Success is being able to do what you said that you're going to do. Finding ways to measure those, and then finding ways to filter those down to your departments and to your staff, so every single person knows how they contribute to success. Every single person feels supported and empowered to contribute, and then you share and celebrate those wins. But if you don't know what success is and you just get a group of people to try to work really hard, there's a small probability that you'll be able to do that. There's a lot of correlation to health and fitness. Like, if you want to achieve a certain physique, you need to eat a certain amount of food, you need to train a certain way, you can't just do any exercise, and like, it's got to be intentional. It's
repetition, right? Like, and we were talking about this a while back when I started the podcast, and the first few guys that I got on to the podcast were rugby league players. And, you said, double down on that, just go deep into rugby league. And it's funny, as I kept going deep, there's stories almost gave the framework of what goes through, what an individual goes through, whether they're playing sport, because sport's like a business essentially. Then what happens when they finish that career? It's like you go from this job to that job. It becomes hard again. Then you got to, you got to figure out the land. You got to figure out the new culture. But you said go deep in that, and after a year going deep, has had a lot of people, look towards us and look towards our podcast. And yesterday you sent me a couple of great messages about the messages we were conveying to the people. And I remember at that point, Kenny said, you got to find a co-host to make the job easier. And then it's funny because Jake, being an ex-rugby league player, playing 50 games for St. George, and if you watch some of the clips, he was pretty good.
Yeah, I've been seeing some of the highlights, man.
The guy had a lot of talent, mate.
Yeah.
I don't want to run at him, but...
No, he looked like a bit of a hard bastard up there.
Like he's sitting here right here now. He looks like he is professional. But you're right, because even as I was doing the podcast, and I had to be consistent, we had to find footy players, but that was the process. That was what was necessary. That repetition is what people want to consistently see. What I want people to know about is, in that framework, you're a big part of that, and obviously Kenny going and finding a co-host. How important is it to, and Jake, you've been through this as well, is to cut out the outside noise that will just constantly, try and trigger you to change things when you don't have to change them. You just got to double down on being consistent.
Yeah, you taught me this too. Like you said many times when we were training, like without probably saying it in the same words that you use. Don't worry about I know my business. I'm not worrying about what anyone else tells me. I know what I need to do. In my experience so far, and it's maybe not the best advice for everyone, I think that going niche before you go broad makes sense. Pick an audience, own them, understand who that audience and that customer is, do everything you can to add as much value as you can to that group until you achieve like true organic, natural scale there and you own that size. Then you can branch out and do something else. But if you try to be everything for everyone, you're probably going to end up doing nothing for anyone.
If you love these conversations we're having on this podcast, because we're getting heaps of comments, and I want to thank every subscriber out there that's hitting the comments, hitting the like button, hitting the share button. But more importantly, we're going to take this to Thailand. The exact same thing we're doing with the people that we bring on, changing the world, changing the mindset, and making people become better. That's exactly what we're going to do. March 16 in Thailand. Hit the link in the bio. I want to see you there.
That's a fair point. I want to resort back to culture, because obviously coming from a team sport, culture is massive. And you can't have it 50-50. It needs to be, anywhere from 80 to 20, 90 to 10 to get that momentum. And as you said, to make the right choices to get everyone to come, because eventually wins and losses are a major part of sport, also with business. What are some things that you implement into culture to make sure you're getting those consistent wins?
I came from a sporting background too. I love sport. I think there's so many similarities in how good sports franchises are run and good businesses are run. They're both essentially businesses, particularly with the standard that's set. You see like the best sports team in the NRL, you'll see the best halves go to Origin or whatever happens, but they've got these young fellas coming through and they still win games. And it's like, how? But it's all the stuff off the field. They have a strategy. They pick players that they know can implement that strategy, that are going to adopt those behaviors. And anyone that falls outside of that, they're not allowed in. And anyone that falls outside of that, they get moved on. So you can keep what's sacred. It starts with having a mission that you can get your whole team to buy into. Then you've got your values that everyone, I think, needs to live 100% of the time. And if they don't live to those values, then they need to be reprimanded and addressed as to why that's not a part of the culture. Then you have a group of people that stand for something. Then you have a business that stands for something. It needs to be about more than coming to work or coming to your team and ticking a box and not caring and then going away somewhere else. I went to the Philadelphia Eagles facility last year, which was awesome, over in the States. And going to their facility, you see every single room, every single hallway has their values plastered everywhere. You can't look and not see them somewhere. For everyone to walk into that building, you know exactly what it means to put on the jersey. And any good business, I think, has a similar framework where they understand that this is what we're trying to achieve. These are the behaviors that are tolerated. These are the behaviors that aren't tolerated. I think business is more like a sports team culture than a family. You should have rewards for people that have good performance and contribute to the group and do what they're there to do. And similarly, you should be able to, you know, remove people from the business who don't want to adopt that mentality and adopt those behaviors, because it can be harmful to the group. Similar in sport, you've got a salary cap of, you know, how much money you can spend on bringing your players in. You would have a wage allowance in your business, and you want to make sure that you're spending your budget on the right people to deliver the strategy that you have. But a lot of that falls down to leadership and understanding, what are you trying to achieve? What is your strategy? What players or what staff do you need to bring into the business, and how are you going to manage them to deliver that? And then how are you going to reward positive behaviors and make sure that you're looking after the players and the team members that are contributing? And how are you moving people out of that system who don't adopt those behaviors, who aren't doing what's best for the group or aren't contributing as much as they should? It's quite similar.
You bring up a great point. You know, when you've got the values and the behaviors plastered on walls, it makes a huge difference, because the more you see it, it's like this repetitious thing. The more you see these words like, you know, potato, you know, oh, what a feeling, you know, McDonald's. When you see these brands, they've got these simple sayings, and they resonate and they mean something. And to be honest, like lately I've been thinking about how because in our business is growing, I'm thinking of ways, and I was talking to Jake, okay, we have to create better systems, videos for individuals so they can watch it and listen to it, and then have the transcription. And then if you have it plastered, they can see it, they can resonate with it, they can feel it. What's important to a company is helping the growth of individuals, and that they feel like they're more valued. In your years that you've been obviously working, you know, been there with EHP, come back, you know, almost 10 years later. But in between, you're always connected with the brand. You're always connected with this. And I remember he's always saying to me, you know, fuck, you know, how good's Clay? How good's Clay? You know, and wanting that for him. How challenging is it? Like, you were there as the machine making it, helping create it. How challenging is it being on the other side, where now you're right at the top, and now you're implementing these strategies to help the team grow?
It's not like there's challenges in the business, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Like I know this business, I know these people, I know what we're capable of building and creating here, and having a big team of people that I believe in, that believe, like it makes sense. It feels supernatural. To your point, like my title there is Chief Growth Officer at the moment. And my job is to grow the people, I think. Like the more, if you want to go fast, you can go alone. If you want to go far, you got to go together. So it's about getting the people to understand how they contribute, making sure they're all super engaged and supported, and where problems or obstacles pop up in their roles, that our leadership team is there to sit with them and remove those obstacles so we can keep growing. But it's a super exciting time for the business. It's changed so much. You know, when I started off, we were figuring out the marketing and scaling in Australia a lot. The brand now has a huge presence here in Australia. There's a whole new product line with these OxyShred energy cans. That's a really exciting part of the business that's going from strength to strength. We have a huge presence in America, and the brand is now in Walmart, crushing it in Amazon, the Vitamin Shop, GNC. We're in America in Superdrug. We're in Canada at Sobeys. We're talking to all major retailers in all major markets. And what started as a vision with is really about an opportunity that he saw in the world, and some value that he could create to people that aligned with personal experiences that he had, is now a juggernaut that's moving all over the world super, super fast. And to be able to work with the team that we have now to go to that next level and to build such an incredible business, like I love it. You know, I took some time away from the business, but you would know I was so in love with business, and I owe so much of that to the first time I had at the brand, because I really saw what was possible if you jump in the deep end. And to be back now with all that experience and all those learnings, and with where the business is today, it's fucking exciting.
And you have said off camera, we've spoken a lot, you did say you have learned a lot from what's become this juggernaut, this machine. How important is it for individuals to be able to go to, like you're at St. George, how important is it to be able to go to these organisations, see the different teams, like you know, you've probably heard all about it, like, you know, you got the Penriths, the Dragons and all those different organisations. How important was it for someone like Clay to be able to go and then look at these different companies and come back full circle? Is there more of an appreciation factor now?
Yeah, for sure. I think perspective is really important. To go and experience what it's like somewhere else, you start to appreciate, hey, here's those things that worked really well here, or here's some things I learned over here that we can bring back over here. Being coachable and continuing to learn without ego, I think, is like a huge part of most successful people. I had a sports coach once that was I was quite young, but it always stuck with me. He said, you know, everyone thinks my job this year is for us to win the comp. It's not. It's you guys are all young men. If you can take a few % of traits that I instilled to you this year and take them on board with you for the rest of your life, then I've done my job. And I've always kept that mentality with every person that I interact with. Like, what do I like about this person? What about him might I want to bring into myself? Or what do I like about that person? Or what didn't I like about that person? I don't want to make someone feel that way. Or remaining coachable and staying aware, I think is a really great way to develop as a person, and that's a really good sign of a good leader to bring into your team as well.
You mentioned before Chief Growth Officer. First word that comes to mind when I hear growth is empowerment. You obviously dictate to a team, I suppose, in some way. And how do you individually empower these people? Because when you see a spark in someone, someone's got massive potential. How do you feed that to empower them to lean into that sort of stuff more?
Yeah, another great question. It's not just me as well. Like, we've got such a great leadership team and such great managers at the business that we're all thinking this way, and we're all trying to build towards this common goal that we want to achieve. You do find some people are amazing at what they do. A term that I like to use across my career is a PLU, like people like us, people that want to contribute more, that are always finding ways to add value, that are always asking amazing questions, that are always wanting to take on more responsibility and push the limits. And those people get rewarded with more opportunity and more problems to solve, really. You know, I think a lot of companies will look to develop their staff by having courses that they can study or benefits or additional things outside of the business. Like, our way of developing our team is by giving them really challenging things to figure out when they're with us and learn while they're working. And the proof is in the pudding there. We've got amazing people at our business that joined us as juniors that are now working in really senior roles with lots of responsibility because they've jumped in the deep end and had the opportunity to actually work on complex things and challenge themselves and figure out what they're made of and figure out how to solve problems, and you grow through doing that. So our culture is, we're agile, it's fast moving, we're a performance-based culture where we are obsessed with winning. You know, we'll run through walls to make things happen. And on the other side of all of that is growth, because you're in an environment where you're challenged to do more, be more, achieve things you haven't done before, find a way. There's always a way, I think. Like, having that problem-solving mindset is really key. And we're grateful that we've got an environment where we can work on hard problems and solve hard things, and through that, naturally, you're going to grow.
What's a challenge for you that, like, because I'm still learning. I've obviously only known you since I've started being here, and I'm always curious. Mets and I've always asked questions about you.
Yeah.
What's a challenge that comes up where you're like, there's an opportunity and growth behind this? What's the biggest thing there?
Oh, mate, they happen like all the time across all departments. In marketing, you might find that your content, for example, is not resonating, or an offer that you send out doesn't achieve the results that you want, so you have to try to pivot, or you see that one of your channels is down, or something breaks, or, you know, there's in operations it's the same. Maybe your stock doesn't arrive on time, or there's an issue with the manufacturer, or a timeline is blown out which impacts all of the other teams. Your customer care it's the same. Like, there's relative issues across all parts of the business, and businesses is like a chain, and where one department breaks, the whole chain can break. So it's trying to get everything communicating together, working together, making sure that the team is all not just building culture and performance individually in their department, but actually being aware of what's happening in the broader group and understanding how we all contribute and work together to drive those outcomes. So the problems are never going to go away. That's part of life, and it's part of business. It's getting better equipped to deal with them when they happen and preempting them. A big unlock for me was, you know, not being comfortable, spending time outside of the time that the rest of the team is at the office to make sure that I'm prepared for my meetings. I know exactly what I need my team to be working on. I'm trying to stay 2 steps ahead of any problem before it occurs, to make sure that all the energy and all the output of the team is strategically mapped to where we know that we need to go. It's not enough at this level, I think, if you want to achieve something great, to just rock up and think on your feet and coast by. You really need to fully commit and jump into the deep end and be hyper aware of all the detail in the business if you really want it to move. And you would know this. You know, I watching you run your business. You know every single detail about what every single staff member needs to be working on. I still see you walking through the gym and picking up the piece of paper on the floor. Every single detail in here, you don't miss anything. You're across every single bit, and that's why you're achieving the growth that you are.
I think, you know, what's important is, you know, as you're going through your business and you're looking at all the different areas, what I've learned is you don't have to do absolutely everything, but you have to know about each detail. I'm not the guy that edits behind the screens. I know what I have to say. I know what I have to do. So I know what I have to execute there. I know what I have to communicate with my team, you know, of creatives. I also understand what I have to deal with the sales team. I understand what I have to do in the marketing side. I understand when it comes from a perspective of bringing new equipment in, new team members in. What does the framework look like above the new team members? Are those individuals communicating well to one another? And, you know, a question I wanted to ask you, and you know, I've gone through different levels of this, but when you're winning, that's when you've got to look at the problems, not when you're losing, because now it's too late. So when you're winning, there's always these 1%ers that you could do better. What do you see? You know, EHP's had a massive level of growth. When you're winning, are you looking for more problems? Because problems are opportunities. And, you know, in the last few weeks, I've just looked at a few things and I go, geez, man, I know we're doing really well, but I'm not going to get complacent here, because as soon as I do, we could go backwards, because there's something here that needs attention or be attended to.
Yeah, 100%. I truly believe that what gets measured improves, which sounds simple, but as a leader, you need to understand that the right data is what's getting measured, because you can use data to try to verify a lot of different points. You know, you might be able to speak to your sales team and they might say, we made X amount of calls this month. It's, you know, 20% up on last month, but if the actual outcomes and outputs of those calls is lower, then is that the right data for you to be measuring? You know, you need to be making sure that each person in your business is working on the right things and measuring the right things that you know are going to move your business in the way that you want to move it. What was the first part of the question?
It's like, you know, when you're winning, obviously when you're winning.
When you're winning. Like, and similarly, success hides flaws. So it's easy to clap when you're winning. And a question that I like to ask in interviews with new people is, are you someone that loves to win or someone that hates to lose? Because it can be sometimes easy to clap and want to share in the success when you're winning and get the balloons and drink the champagne and do all of that. But I want to know the people that when we're losing that are pulling their fucking socks up and saying, we need to do whatever it takes now to find a way to turn this around as soon as possible. You can't just want to share in the upside. You got to be the person that when things aren't going to plan, you're going to take that person and you're going to find a way to fix that problem.
Yeah. And it's easy to go into, you know, a loss. It's easy. Like you've played in high levels of sport. You've made the semis. Next year looking to go a step further, and then you go backwards and you're going, geez, what the hell went wrong? And sometimes what we do is we take our eye off the ball when we're winning, because we know there's certain things that are wrong, but we're going well. And we don't want to go in there and create any drama, because we know that if we do that, something's going to happen. But the reality is you have to go in when you're winning, go in deeper again, and try and look at objectively, there's something's wrong. I know we're winning, but I've got to find this. And usually you don't want to, because everything is coasting.
Yeah, that's where business is maybe somewhere a little bit different to sports. Like in sport, if you win by 1 point or 50 points, you're going to get 2 points on the weekend. But in business, you can win by a lot. You can generate a lot more profit. You can generate a lot more growth. You can generate a lot more results than just what the target was. So when there is success, you need to understand, like, why is there success? And how do you make that success repeatable and scalable, and understand what are those levers that are driving that growth so you can make sure that you continue them. It can be quite an anxious time as someone driving a business if performance is good but you don't know why. Today's results were great, but are they going to be there tomorrow? Are they going to be there next week? Are they going to be there next month? So again, understanding the data and understanding the levers in your business is super, super, super important.
Would you say this? I was just thinking about this as you were speaking. Would you rather success gradually, like moment to moment, or would you rather just see it skyrocket once and then try to figure it out as you're sort of going up.
Yeah.
You know, because I think about this, like, as you mentioned before with footy teams, right? You look at Penrith, perfect example. What gets them up? Four grand final wins in a row. But they're also having players taken or players leaving to get better, different opportunities, more money, whatever it is. But they're still winning. So then you look at that. Everyone in some capacity has to be going, what are they actually doing? Because that is gradual success. Because remember, they lost the first one against Melbourne, went back, restructured what they had to do, and they don't even look like losing, right? So my question to you is, gradual success or an explosion of it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, he's got some good questions.
Yeah, he does. That's a good one.
Good feedback.
For an average guy, he's fantastic. I'm only joking.
I've been lucky enough to be a part of businesses where both have happened. At EHP, for example, the growth has always occurred faster than the systems. So we've experienced exponential growth where we haven't had sometimes the team or the structure or the processes that are really ready to facilitate that. And that can lead to cracks and challenges forming, but if you're up for solving them, then that's amazing. I've also been a part of businesses that have a much more structured approach to growth. And if that growth starts to supersede the model, they'll pull back on the marketing and say, no, we're happy with, let's follow these steps gradually and move where we need to go. I wouldn't be too precious about either of those personally, as long as growth is happening.
Yes.
I think you can go after it. You know, growth is ultimately what you want. If there's exponential growth, personally, I wouldn't shy away from that. I would run at it if you think you can, and then learn as you go and adapt and make sure that you can find ways to make it scalable. But there's huge benefit also in having a clear strategy and following that and making it work. Penrith is, I make assumptions about them. I don't know anything about the club, but I would assume that regardless of the players that put on the jersey, that coach knows, I need my wingers to take this many hit-ups and run this many meters. I need my front rowers to do this. I need my half to do this. I need my six to do this. And he'll go and find players that, again, have the capability to hit those metrics, but also the compatibility to live their values and culture as a team, which is why they'll lose 2 or 3 of their best players every year, but they're continuing to nurture, and they've probably got their salary cap and their signings planned for the next 3 years, because you can make your business predictable if you know what it takes to succeed. And all of those learnings are applicable to business as well.
It does help when you have Nathan Cleary in the team as well.
Well,
Sure. But what a leader, you know, like the
Yeah.
standard that he sets
That's what I
from
mean.
being that talented, but still driving the team and driving the culture. Like there's no accidents at that club. You can't win 4 years in a row as a fluke.
No.
but it's the nursery as well. Like our school
100%.
was there earlier, created the nursery for it to build that way. But like Clay said, with the HP, it had exponential growth, and they had to figure out the back end of the business. But I guess the CEO and you back in the early days, and with a couple of key personnel that you've had, he's really pulled up your socks. No, but you know what I mean? Like he's really going, mate, hey, listen, man, there's a few of us at the top here, but we're just going to work overtime. We're going to put the hours in.
Yeah.
When you have the founder, the CEO, and he brings the rest of the people, how important is that as you're growing? Because imagine the CEO doesn't know how to operate anything. What happens then? Because it's growing quick now, the CEO's got no idea. What could go wrong at that point?
Lots could go wrong. You know, Iz is so incredible at business. You know, what he's built with his own hands is insane, and now what he's built by bringing in amazing people and leading them is amazing to be a part of and amazing to witness. And he will demand a lot of me, but he'll never demand me to do something that he wouldn't do himself. You know, the same standards that he lives by, the same standards that he expects from those around him. And that's, again, to the conversation we're having at the start, making that clear when you bring new people into the business that these are our expectations and this is our culture and these are our values. And we're unlike a lot of other businesses, and that's okay. You don't have to want to be a part of this. Like, there are going to be times where you're going to be pushed to your limits and you're going to be asked to do extras, but we're going to be right beside you doing the same thing, because we want to be a part of creating something incredible. And you're probably not going to create something incredible if you just want to stay in your comfort zone the whole time and tick boxes and just coast through it. So his leadership is a big driver. I think for any business, the founder is ultimately going to be the heartbeat of the business. And he's definitely the heartbeat of ours. He doesn't miss a thing. He's across every single piece of detail, every single task, responds to every single message from every single person on the minute somehow, all the time. So that standard is then set for every other person that contributes to the business, that we're never asking someone to do something that's any different from what's possible, because we're doing it ourselves, and we're there to be right beside you, to support you and make sure that you can do it too.
March 16, Elevate with Mets retreat in Thailand. Listen, I've done a few of these, but this one by far is going to be the best. We are getting ready, our clients ready way before they get there. They're going to have everything from nutrition, mindset, training. This is going to be the transformation of your life, and it's going to be done in 2 stunning hotels in Thailand. Can't wait to see you there. Hit the link in the bio and let's get you started.
I'm a natural curious guy, right? So I listen to this conversation and I'm hearing high stress, you know, with what we do for work, especially you obviously. I'm just starting to see and learn all these things. Obviously rugby league is highly stressful as well in different ways. But the question I want to ask you is, I know what I do when I'm away from here to bring myself back down to that 5 out of 10. What do you do? Because it sounds like, you know, there's traveling involved, there's meeting other people, you know, then you're getting curveballs thrown left, right and centre, probably daily.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm notoriously known as like not being stressed. Like how I present now in this podcast is probably as stressed as you would ever see me.
Okay.
Because I always, there's times of urgency, but ultimately like there's always a solution. And you look back now, we've been doing this for a minute, you know, I've been working in businesses and doing work similar to what I'm doing now for like 10 years. Nothing's ever killed me. Nothing's ever killed the business. There's always a way. And when things do go wrong, you know, the people in your team are ultimately going to look for someone to step up and say, this is how we're going to solve it. And I love being that person. I love being that person for my family, love being that person in my business. So I don't necessarily get stressed. I definitely like to do things when I'm not working. A lot of it is around training, to be honest. I find that like having that time to train every day allows me to be a better leader, allows me to fill up my battery. And a friend of ours, Tyron, Mets doesn't like his speeches. I like them. He says
It's
like,
more, look, his speeches are fantastic, but he tries to compete against me. That's what I don't like.
you got some competition there.
Yeah, I know.
But
Wait
something
a second, how was my speech yesterday? It was pretty good.
he did give a good speech yesterday. There'll be some footage floating around somewhere. But
There
something
is.
Tyron says is each morning, you know, he's got his routine, and for him, that's putting his armor on to face the day. Like if you're going to walk out into a war and you haven't got your armor on, you're going to get eaten alive straight away. So I like to have my morning routine that kind of preps me for the day. I'll wake up. I've got some habits that I run through. I'll go and train. I'll come home, shower, get ready, and walk into the office, because I'm aware that like my energy is a huge determinant of everyone else's energy. If I walk in tired and stressed and upset about some other thing and I carry that into the office and I walk in with my head down and I hide in a meeting room, and like the team is going to be flat as a result of that. So I work out with the team. I'm buzzing around everyone's desk. I'm working on people's shoulders. I'm sitting next to them and driving things. And I find that leadership approach for me has been way more effective. Yeah.
What's the difference between this version of Clay and the one that started so long ago? What have you got in that time frame that's made you? Well, when I've just listened to you speak, it appears you're very confident. You come back from morning routine. I have a morning routine as well, which allows me to function extremely well through my day. But I know I crash and burn in the afternoons.
Yeah.
So I have that self-awareness. But what now is different to back then, and what confidence has been instilled in you to be like this?
Another great question. I think something that I became aware of as I got a little bit more mature on my journey is removing my ego. So I like objectively now I know the most amount of things that I've ever known, and I've solved the most amount of problems, but I'm also aware that I don't know so many things too. And I'm way more coachable and way more open to finding that there's like different ways of doing things. So when I was younger, I was probably a little bit bullish and thought, this is great. I've learned a few things. You know, it's going to be the same everywhere. I've got all this information and let's just go do things my way. But now I'm aware that there's like often new things to learn and better ways to do things. And I'm open to taking on new tips, and I'm just a little bit more level and grounded. I've solved a lot of problems, and through solving problems, that's what builds my confidence, because those problems kind of repeat in patterns and you can identify, cool, this thing happens, I know how to fix it, this has happened before, this is what I'm going to go to do about it. There's not much that will kind of happen now that will rattle me or like take me out of that frequency. Like I kind of stay pretty level. And I think that gives a bit of confidence to the people around me because they got someone there that they know is they can look to if something does go wrong. And each time I solve something, it's just a little bit more proof that, you know, I am who I say I am, and I just continue building that trust in myself.
Nice.
And you've done extremely well, and we talked about it, where you're not one of those individuals that stress, but there's a lot of people out there that stress on targets, that stress on, I've got to get this job done, I've got to get that job done, I couldn't sleep last night. I find stress as when I go, okay, if I'm frustrated, that means I'm going to have an answer. Do you think it's the way people frame that word, stress, anxiety? Because I find that when I'm at that point, the answer's on the other side. So the problem is the question to be answered. That's how I look at it. But most people don't look at it like that. They go, if I don't get this done, you know, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to fall over. What is it that makes you stay calm? And I was surprised I'd done this well in Fiji when I lost my wallet.
I was pretty impressed by that.
And you kept saying we're going to find it.
I did think
And
that
I
we
think
were,
a
but
month
that was
later,
also a
just say, did it
tactic.
turn up?
It was a tactic that I just wanted to
It was a
lift your
confidence
spirits a
builder.
little bit.
Empowerment.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. It's not a big deal.
You see, in that situation, what I done, I go, fuck, I've lost this. This is killing me inside, but I can't show this.
Yeah.
Because I go, these guys are here to film.
Yeah.
We're here to have a good time because we wanted to film and showcase the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we had like, if you look at back at that, that was one of the great moments. The weather was perfect.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? The boat ride was unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
there's moments there that we'll never forget. But I almost had to shut that out and go, okay, these people are around me. I can't show this.
Just a bit of perspective. Like, I'm a pretty calm operator a lot of the times. Like, a trait that I don't get along with that well with other people is people that complain.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, people are going to go, how do you guys stay calm? Like, why? How do you do, like, what is it?
It's a choice. Like, what am I going to, I'm going to choose to be stressed? That's not going to help me solve the problem any faster or any better. In fact, that energy is just going to make the people around me feel stressed. Then we're going to have this toxic, stressful environment where people are thinking emotionally and we're not going to solve the actual problem. So I dislike complaining because I think it's something that we can all strive to do less of. And if you define yourself as a stressed person and you identify as being stressed, does that add any value at all to the situation? You're gonna have to solve the problem regardless. You can solve it from a place of like clear, rational thinking, and you can probably get to your solution faster. Or you can start to communicate, leave me alone, I'm stressed, or I'm this, or I'm that. It's not that, like, you're gonna...
It doesn't help you move towards the next process.
It depends. Like, for me, like, the business is a huge part of my identity. So right now, like, my entire focus is this mission that we're achieving with our brand. I'm all in on that, and it's so fun to be all in on that. So things go wrong that, you know, I could easily have the option to go stressed, like, to get stressed. Something happened in the business yesterday, which is probably unideal news that happened. And we stayed on last night to figure out the cause of the issue. And then I'm going to go back and work on that today to make sure that it's resolved. But it's just perspective. Like, I could be stressed about that and have a tantrum about something that went wrong and I've got to spend some extra time to fix it. Or I can be excited that I can add more value to the thing that I'm all in on building and I can enjoy it. And I'm grateful that I got an opportunity to be doing what I'm doing and to have the freedom to go into a nice office on the weekend and work on a business that I love and a mission that I'm proud to. Like, it's just all how you frame things, right? Like, I don't see any value in framing any single situation as stressful, personally.
Problem solver or problem makers.
Yeah.
Two different things. When you're attempting to get a product out there, do you attempt to find the value in the product before you sort of put a marketing thing together or marketing, what's the right
Campaign.
word? Campaign together?
Yeah.
And what are you actually looking to do in that sort of sequence?
Because
Like,
you
what
just
is-
got, they just released the Hydrolyte drink as well.
What do you mean hydrolyte?
Hydrolyte, hydration. The hydration drink that looks really nice.
Hydro. If you haven't tried it, you should.
Why didn't he correct me there? But the hydration.
You got all these laptops. Do some preparation, man.
This isn't.
What do you mean?
this is-
No, but I'm looking
He's
I'm looking at all these new products that have come on, on board, and then I'm looking at all these new cans, these new flavors, the non-stims, and I'm going, there's so many new products, and does each person look after each campaign? I think that's what you were going
That's
at,
what
right?
I was looking for the word campaign because I'm noticing these cans upstairs, and every time I see one, I'm like, what the fuck
It's a
is
new
that?
flavour.
Because of the colours, the name of the flavours, all that sort of stuff. So what do you sort of, when you go looking for that stuff, where do you go and how do you put it all together?
Yeah. Again, man, it's a good question.
Listen, I'm taking all the validation today.
yeah.
Thank you.
An undervalued word, I think, in marketing and business in general is positioning. I think a lot of people focus less on the problem and they jump straight to the solution and they jump straight to the execution. Like, okay, new product, let's just go out and start doing shoots and start running ads and start screaming and shouting about it. But what is it exactly that you're screaming and shouting about? You got to get crystal clear before any of your actual marketing occurs about what the positioning of your product is. That has to be strong. It's going to be not as effective as it should be if you rush into the execution and just start putting things out there. That's not marketing, in my opinion. That's communications. You're just communicating something. And if you're communicating not the most effective message, are you going to get the best outcome? It's a risk, right? So you want to try to control that risk as much as possible. Do a lot of analysis before you launch any comms, ideally before you even create the product. You want to understand, who am I creating it for? What problem am I solving? What are the unique value propositions? How does it differ from the competitors that are on the market? Like, do the cogs financially, does it make sense? How are we going to deliver this? Make sure that you're really tight on, this is what we're creating to solve a problem for this group of people, and this is who we're going to go after, and this is who we're going to communicate to. If you have your positioning really, really tight, then you can move on to the next phase, which is how we're going to disseminate that positioning to the market. How are we going to be as creative as possible to go and do amazing marketing to deliver this message at the right time to the right audience.
So with something like that, how do you market that? Because like I just see can like in colours and all that sort of stuff. So do you then go look for a personality or a character in the market and go, this will align well with this, whether it's a sports star, an actor, a model, whatever it is? How do you sort of go about that as well?
We know that for our brand that we're creating products to empower people on their health and fitness journeys. So we'll never deliver a product that isn't going to add value to someone who wants to get better through health and fitness. So every single ingredient that goes into this can is to empower a health conscious customer who goes to the gym to make themselves better, to have the energy, focus, no crash, no nasties in there, amazing taste that they need to walk into the gym and be confident to go and achieve everything that they want to achieve. We know exactly what that customer looks like, sounds like, all the data about them, and we'll tailor everything that we do with our diverse marketing strategy to add value to that customer. Cool. That strategy goes into each product, that strategy goes into the way that we build all of our campaigns. All of that information goes into even people that we want to bring into the business. You know, we want people that believe in that mission and understand that customer and also live this lifestyle. And if we experience these problems in our daily life too, you know, like this, I genuinely, like, there's not many times you'll see me not having one of these cans in my hand.
Yeah.
It's a massive part of my day. I love all the different flavors. I love the way they make me feel. I've got different products in our range that I'll have at different times of my day because I'm someone that lives that lifestyle. I love to train. I get better through health and fitness. So I love to take products that help me to get better.
If you're enjoying these conversations on this podcast, why don't you come to the retreat? March 16th, Elevate with Mets. You can have these one-on-one conversations while also bettering yourself with other people around you. Hit the link in the bio and come and join us.
When you bring new products out onto the market, is obviously with these cans, they're everywhere. So is there more attention, more marketing budget behind it than other products that you bring on? Like right now, this would be your biggest focus right at EHP.
It's definitely one of the big focuses right now. Like the cans are amazing, and the growth in distribution and the response from the market has been amazing. The cans are scaling in America, which is great. They're scaling now into the UK, into Canada. In Australia, you can get the cans at gyms like this amazing gym at Titan Fitness.
Titan Fitness, yes.
What a gym.
Coles, Woolworths, 7-Eleven, Ampol, any petrol convenience grocery will carry the cans, and they're doing really, really well, which is great because they're an incredible product that speaks for itself. So, you know, we're always focusing on great marketing strategies to grow the brand, but you ultimately need to have product market fit. You know, you need the market to like your product and to come back and to want to buy it, so that you're not having to spend resource and attention to capture new customers every time. You know, ultimately you want those return customers that are buying into not only your product, but your brand. They believe, again, in the content that you put out, in the values that your business stands for, in the change that you're trying to instill. It all kind of needs to work as one cohesive strategy.
Geez, we've covered heaps, man. We've covered your time back at EHP. We've covered the Philadelphia Eagles, rugby league, sports, all the things that kind of resonate with you on what, molds you as a character, as Clayton. And you've worked with some massive brands. You've worked at EHP. You've helped MUSUMECI. Before you went to EHP, you were doing some work with us. So you've helped a lot of companies, and there's, it takes a lot to culminate an individual. The final question I've got, and you can ask one more after this if you like, Jake, but there was one more. No, you can ask whatever you want, but ask one more. But this is the big one.
Just one,
right?
make sure it's a good one. Yeah?
Finally, I'll ask this question. When you look at, you've seen heaps of businesses come to you, you've seen heaps of different individuals. When you look at an individual, do you go, this guy's not going to make it? When you look at a business, when you look at a business and you look at the person, do you feel like they probably won't make it with the mindset they've got now, or they don't have the character that they've got that's necessary for them to go to that next level? Because sometimes, and I've found this in business myself, over the years, everyone has this huge dream of where they got to get to, but they don't understand the amount of work necessary for that. Have you seen that? Like, you've come across heaps of people.
Yeah, look, I try not to assume that someone's going to fail from traits that they have, but you just kind of answered your own question. It's more a question. I've seen all different personality types build amazing things and succeed. I don't think there's any one black and white way of doing things that's right, but the one thing that has to be there is, like, they have to be able to embrace the hard work. It's a very small percentage of businesses that are started that succeed. And if you throw the towel in when it gets hard, you're never going to make it. I'm sure you've experienced this at all times through your life. The work is a constant, regardless of how good or bad you are. There's always things to improve and work to get done and ways to get better. So I think if someone really has the ethic and the resilience to jump in to business and is not going to falter when things aren't pretty or when things get hard, then they're definitely, you got to be in the game to win. You can't win the game on the sidelines. Like, if you're in and you're playing and you're working and you're fixing and you're super committed, you're in with a chance of succeeding, regardless of whatever your personality type is or anything else.
I'll finish with this question.
Yeah.
Where's Clayton in 10 years?
It's a good one.
It's not a good one, man, this guy.
Like, is it,
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself?
There's a lot of, like, pillars of my life that are important. Like, family is really important to me. So in 10 years, I'd love to have my own happy, healthy family, spending a lot of time with my own family and loved ones. Ideally be fitter, faster, stronger than what I am now. Health will always be a pillar. We've got a really clear roadmap for the business, and I'd love to see the brand at a real, massive, hard to even describe the scale of where we would like to be in 10 years from now, which is really important. And essentially just, like, very present and very happy. Like, I don't have, like, a really closed grip on what I need my life to look like. Like, I'm okay with, like, releasing that grip now and allowing some room for, like, miracles to pop up. I think sometimes if you try to be too prescriptive with a timeline on what you want to achieve, I don't necessarily think things work like that. So I've got a really clear vision of how I want my life to look, but I'm less possessive over the timeline of when those things need to happen.
Healthy.
Yeah.
Smart.
Thanks, Clay, man. There's a lot of great information there for individuals to take away, whether they're in business, whether they're working for a company like EHP, Titan Fitness, MUSUMECI, whichever company there is, even for Kenny and his kicking it.
Man, he's got to prepare better. But thanks, boys. Honestly, like, there's been massive growth here too. Every time I come in and do a podcast, like, we did this, I don't know how many years ago in Mets' kitchen.
Yeah, I was telling you.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
Susie making food in the kitchen bench. We had some good guests back then, and we're just figuring it out as we went. We're figuring out what equipment to use. Podcasting was definitely not what it is today.
Yep.
But I've been lucky enough to be really close to you through every stage of your growth, and, like, what you're doing now is phenomenal across all areas. Every single goal that you've set is popping up in reality due to all the hard work and the level that you're operating at. So I don't know what's next from here. Like in a year's time when I come back for my next podcast,
We'll get him
I don't
back
know
on again, Kenny.
Yeah.
But we've got to make it. We'll go all out now, man.
Yeah.
When he comes back in a year, he's going to go, what the fuck happened, bro?
Might not even be here. Might be somewhere else.
Yeah,
You never know.
yeah, might be on a spaceship or something. Who knows?
Hopefully.
Elon.
Yeah.
Hopefully. No, we were talking about it off, what was it the other day, about, what we want to be able to, where we want to be in 4 years. But then it was like Kenny goes, mate, where will we be in about a year or 2 years?
Yeah.
So we said, let's just go. Let's put all our efforts in and just really go for it. Because I think when you do that, you start to see exponential growth. And I think, and I was talking to Jake before, I said, the work you put in now is what you'll see in 3 months. So, okay, the incubation period is around 2 seasons, which is like 6 months. Okay, you go hard in 6 months and then you see this massive growth and then you go, where'd it come from? It was the 6 months of work prior.
Always.
So every 6 months you see this huge spike. And if you double down on that, you start to see massive ones. And I think a lot of people can learn a lot from this podcast because a lot of the things that we've done here at Titan Fitness, we talked about. We talked about, niching down. We talked about focusing and being repetitious on the work that's necessary to go to that next level. So these are very simple rules, but they're very hard to execute as well.
That's the mantra. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
complexity is focusing on the simple things and letting them compound and not being distracted.
Thanks a lot, bro. Appreciate it.
Thanks, boys.
Excellent.
Thanks. Over and out.